Hey guys, welcome to our first YouTube long. We've been getting a lot of questions about real estate, and so we decided to bring on Dino's realtor, Daniel, to answer some of those questions. Dino's got a list of questions on his iPad over there that we're gonna go through. So if you guys wanna get into
We're
it.
going to go through a lot of things discussing the real estate market, but firstly I want to introduce Daniel, my realtor, and I know we get a lot of questions all the time about the real estate market, time to buy, not to buy, to sell, etc. Right? And Daniel's been my realtor for forever, and Daniel helped me a lot and in getting great deals, knowing when to buy, knowing the good areas. So I felt that the best way to help our audience is to have the expert right here. I understand finances, I understand macroeconomic stuff, but Daniel is in the business. He sees this every day, so I figured who better than my realtor to interview. So
Thanks,
Daniel, a little bit of your background and
lived in Los Angeles pretty much my whole life. I've been doing real estate on the residential side for about 10 years now. And prior to that, I was doing mortgages in the early 2000s, so I kind of saw that whole process. I run a team of 5 agents, including myself, called Green LA, and nationally recognized, top 1.5% in the country. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and happy to kind of discuss what's going on. There's a lot of weird stuff in the market today.
yeah. So I want to start from the big picture, macro. The Case-Shiller home price index came out, showed the whole market is still going up 2 to 3%. There are a couple of markets that are declining, like Phoenix, Las Vegas, Portland, but LA, San Diego, Florida, they're all still moving up. And coming out of a rate environment that's the highest 30-year fixed rate mortgages in a couple of decades, right? The rates are coming down right now. We're coming up to the last day of November here. Rates are coming down, so general consensus from Case-Shiller is it's gonna get even hotter as the rates come down.
Absolutely.
So we start with the big picture. What do you see, man?
So in LA right now, in everything's regional, right?
Right.
And even in Los Angeles, we have so many different pockets and whatnot. 2 million and below is just on fire. And the biggest thing driving everything right now is just lack of inventory, supply and demand. So even in the high rate environment where, the cost of ownership and affordability has gone completely out the window, it's not stopping people from making that move and wanting to do something. You also got to look at it like this. What the shocking thing over the past year is not the rates, because you and I have been in long enough to know that 6.5%, 7%, in the early 2000s was normal, and that was an acceptable rate. It's how quickly that changed. So yeah, the initial shock, February, March, when everything kind of hit, it slowed the market down. You're now at a point now where people are kind of used to that, so people are jumping into market. This is a normal rate environment for them.
Right.
So that initial shock is gone. Also, you look at what people are paying for rents. Prices of rent are through the roof. So are you going to pay $6,000, $7,000 in rent or $6,000, $7,000 in mortgage payment?
Yeah.
So it's there now. We're at the point now where people are trying to be a little bit more comfortable with it.
So they basically got used to it, right?
That's
so
right.
There's a funny story about that. Is I have a rental property.
Yeah.
My rentals that it's been anniversary 12 months since the last increase, which was nothing.
Yeah.
And I hadn't increased their rents in 4 years, right? So I was telling Alexis, I feel bad to increase their rent, and I checked the market, and I'm probably $1,000 below market as is.
Yeah.
So I felt bad at first, so I just sent them an increase of $200. I felt bad, and they were like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't sign it. Done deal. Okay." They paid me early. They didn't care.
It's nuts.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
Right?
We my wife and I, we were renting a place in Playa Vista, not too far from here. 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,100 square feet. It was $3,700 a month when we left in 2019. My buddy's in the same place right now. He's in a 1 bedroom in a den, not a 2 bedroom. He's paying $5,300 a month in the same building.
With one less bedroom.
One less bedroom. So that's what you're looking at.
That's what
right
I
now.
don't understand. That's what I think people, sometimes don't understand. Of course, LA is more affluent, right?
Yeah.
But, you look at $1.2 million mortgage nut. That $2 million usually about $1 million, $2 million, $4 million, right? That's their nut, right? That's the total loan, right? The payment's huge, man.
Massive.
Is that many people here that's not a problem, right? To check 10 grand a month.
They are doing it. And then also you got to think too, we still have a lot of cash in this market.
Yeah.
So, like, perfect example. I'm writing offers, and I just closed a deal over in West LA yesterday for a client, and we were just getting blown out the water. 1.5 to about 1.2 single family home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, beaters that needed like everything done. 10, 12, 15 offers on them. And the crazy thing about it too, which is shocking, is that a year or two ago, those have been developers, right? They would come in, they want to flip it, be done with it. These are end users. So these are first-time buyers where the inventory is so tight that they're like, listen, I'll go in there and I know I'm getting a house that needs all the work that I could possibly do, and they're taking it.
And they're not like developers.
They're not. These are end users who are like first-time home buyers, maybe got some help, family help or whatnot, but no, this is them. It's not developers. These are people buying these houses for themselves because there's no inventory. So when I look at the market, right, and I'm hoping we'll get into that a little bit later as well, but what I'm seeing that's coming on the market in the single family zone is either older people who passed away, right? So people who are just, these houses haven't hit the market 40, 50 years. Right, they need everything.
Hence you need all the work, right?
Everything, right? Or you got people who are like relocating, leaving the state, which is still rare because a lot of people left already. And then you got the developers who maybe bought these beater houses and then have now flipped them, and now they're asking, $2 million, $3 million. They're way over market, but they're getting because there's nothing else there.
So here, right? You hear 90292 and 90066. You see these guys who just renovated these things, and they're asking like
astronomical,
300 to 400 a foot more than the neighbor.
Yeah,
that's crazy, and they're getting it.
And they're getting it. Now, not 90291 Venice, a little different.
It's different, right?
So one and different pockets, different segments, different price points, different areas, different products. They're all kind of having different moments right now. It's a weird market. It's not great across the board.
So that being said, so you've been in the business since the early teens, right? 20,
20. I started selling resi 2009, 2010.
Okay, so that's when the whole thing hit the fan, right?
Yeah,
the inventory stopped.
That's right.
I worked for a bank that had plots of land out in Palm Springs that just all went belly flop. Right.
Yeah.
So here's one thing from what I see is lack of inventory is causing every time it's lack of supply.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? It's been freaking 13, 14 years since that. How come we haven't caught up? Why?
Great question, and it goes all the way back to then.
Right.
So you gotta look about it. Back in the early 2006, 2007, if you had a pulse in the social, get you a loan, right? We gave you a house, right?
I know all the NAGAM, World Savings stuff, WAMU
all
crap,
that stuff. So anybody and the Bush administration, their whole motto was home ownership for everybody, right? So these builders were building tremendous amount of homes. Yeah. Market crashed, and they all end up holding the bag, right? So now you got all these projects over here in Glencoe, projects downtown LA. That what I think was great, there used to be like bus tours from people from Asia who would come in town. They would take them all these different condos, and they would just buy them. That all dried up. So now you have all these builders who are now auctioning off the properties, trying to turn them back into rentals, do anything they can, but they can't sell them. My sister was actually in contract on a brand new construction place on Glencoe during that time frame. And I think she was in at $400,000 was for a 1-bedroom over here in Mid-Array. And when everything, just kind of, went belly up and she had to pull out of the deal, they ended up auctioning, I believe, that same property for $175,000. So what happens? The builders look at that, they took a
bath, right?
Took a bath on it, and ever since then, we haven't built enough inventory to sustain.
Because they don't want to come back and build it. And also, I think they're scared because it's harder for people to buy it. I remember back in those days, you could go down to Temecula on one little model home, and the whole entire development is still blue top. It's still flat, right? Yeah. You just have sticks showing lots.
Absolutely.
You could buy the home for $50,000 down.
That's absolutely.
And I know what people used to do was put deposits in. I was one of those people. Put a deposit in. And then 2 months later, someone wants to buy your allocation, and you flip it and make $50,000.
That's right.
But that's gone now.
It's gone now. Well, once again, there's not enough. We're not building enough homes. The builders have stopped building.
It's just so funny to me because everyone, like you say, you get 10, 15 offers. Even at 7% mortgage rates, things are moving in this market, right? And yet no one wants to build more.
That beating they took, the Toll Brothers, the KB Homes, all those guys from back then, I'm assuming they're being very cautious. And they don't want to get stuck in that same position that they were in 10, 15 years ago. So we've never caught up.
Yeah,
we've
I know.
We've
never got back to 6 months supply.
Ever.
Right?
Ever. And we're probably not at this rate either.
Right.
Still not happening.
Right. And then so the supply contracts.
Yeah.
And then more people want it, drives the prices of what's left even higher, it makes it even more unaffordable.
Yeah. And that's where we are right now. And regardless of the rates being at 7-8%, it doesn't matter, because what happened during COVID, right? 2019. You buy a house. I bought my house in 2019. I think my interest rate was like 4.25%, which is great rate.
Yeah.
By the time 2020 came around to refinance, I'm at 2.9. No one's leaving that. So now you got on this side, builders aren't building houses. You got, I want to say nationally, the amount of people who are under 4% or 5% is like 96% of the region, which is insane.
Yeah.
So, and you're telling these people who want to move, they've had kids,
man.
they've had divorces, they've had deaths, they've had parents who want to move in, they want to go to the next phase of their life, whether that's up or down, whatever it is, but they're like, I can't leave 2.9 to go to 8.
It's like me right now. I
Yeah.
want to get another.
No, you're handcuffed.
Yeah.
So
I
we
could,
need
but
some
I gotta
movement.
pay the piper,
That's right.
and I gotta bring a much bigger down.
And I just did that.
You
So I left 2.9 for 6.875.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't something I did lightly, but I figured two things. My life's changing. I need to make adjustments for my kids and my family and what I'm looking for. And I'm like, listen, if I can handle this right now where it's at, which is not great at 6-7% I can refinance it.
Yeah.
I've been in this long enough. These rates are not going to stay here.
Yeah.
They're going to come down. And I think by the end of next year, everything that I'm hearing is, we should be somewhere in the 6s, maybe if we're lucky, high 5s.
Yes. So I think for people, I think what's the thing about it is if you want to get into a house right now and everything lines up and you're ready to buy.
Yeah.
Independent of whether it's a good deal or not, but the mortgage, right? If you can carry the house you want at a 6.5%, 6.8% loan,
Do it.
If you can afford it, just do it.
Do it.
Because all signs point to rates slowly coming back down. You can always refi and reduce it, but as long as you can carry that nut right now, it looks like it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and then we go back to what we've been talking about, which is inventory. Inventory has never been tighter than it is right now. I mean, we're historic.
That's also because the people with the 3% loans do not want to put their house.
They're not moving. But guess what's going to happen too? A lot of people have gotten off the buying train, and they're on the sidelines now because it's 7%, right? So people who have gotten into the market recently, like we talked about, like they're used to this. They don't know anything different. If you were looking a year ago, 2 years ago, you're like, wow, man, my $1 million purchase looks a lot different than it did a year ago. As a house is a lot less than it was.
It's a lot less house you can afford.
A lot less.
Yeah, like
house.
me, I have a 3% right now,
Sure.
and I'm trying to pencil what I can afford at 6. You just like, oh man,
Doesn't feel good.
Does not.
So, but when these rates hit 5, I think all those guys are going to jump back in.
Yeah.
You're still going to have that inventory crunch. It's not going to release
It's
immediately.
gonna be, so you're saying that it's not gonna release immediately, but so you're gonna get to those.
You're gonna have an initial
You're gonna have
run
one
again.
open house and have 20 offers in the back.
You're still having it on good product. So the difference of what happened during COVID is bad product was selling for historical prices because no one cared.
Okay.
You had bad agents who literally would just say, hey, I'll take a picture of the front, I put it on the MLS, and it's going to sell. I don't have to do anything.
Right.
Now you got to try a little harder. But I think we might have this little bit of a run when these rates hit 5, maybe low 6s, kind of similar to what we had during COVID.
Okay.
Because we don't have inventory.
Right.
So inventory's low, affordability comes down a bit. What do you think is going to happen?
It's gonna go crazy.
It's going to go crazy. You're going to have an initial rush of that. I mean, I can't speak to you about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But I can tell you 6 months from now, if we see these rates come down, I think you're going to have a really robust selling market.
Right. So, I'm going to jump into some of the questions that we get from our TikTok channel. But before that, one thing I wanted to ask, like what you see, you closed several deals this year already, right? How many of those deals do your buyers actually pay to buy the rate down, or how many of them just take it? Just take I'm not going to pay a penny more. I'm going to go par and pay 7.25. How many of them do you see
I'd say this year about 30%.
They would drop the dough and
and
get the rate down.
they're either buying the rate down or the seller
So you get that's a normal thing now, seller concessions to buy.
So it depends, right? Now on these $1.5 million deals that are like a little bit, tougher, now or more competition, they're not paying down the rate. So
you just gotta pay for it.
You just gotta pay for it, because you're doing everything you can to get the house. It's a totally different mindset.
Right.
But like I did a deal over in Culver City. The house is listed I think at $3 million, and we got all the way down to like 2.7. $50,000 credit from the builder, which is a big builder.
New product, basically.
Brand new product, and they pay $50,000 to the buyer breakdown. And they also have buyers who are just maybe they get closing cost credit and they
new
decide
product. I know all the guys, the KBs, the Pulte's, all of the DR Hortons. It's like standard. Buy down. That's how they move their product.
That's the conversation.
And it's not that big of a amount for them, because you just shave off a little bit of your profit and you get to move it out of there. Right?
Yeah, if it's like a $600,000 condo in like Irvine, and you gotta dump like $13K into a buy down, like they do that all day.
Oh, okay. So that's happening a lot.
Yeah, because and those guys are built for that. Like even in a good market, if you have an agent and kind of guide and what you're doing, they'll give you $20,000-$40,000 in upgrades for like window treatments or flooring or cabinetry.
So it's much more like a negotiated deal nowadays than it was like, hey, take it or leave it. You get nothing.
Yeah, they're more apt. The builders now want to move products, and they don't want to sit. And they've always been like that. Right. So they're more ahead of the curve. If you see kind of like, you're walking into the door to DR Horton, and they're like, hey, off the bat, we'll give you $20,000 towards da 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 da. They're kind of knowing what's coming.
Got it.
And they want to move this product. Yeah. So, but I'd imagine now, because we're in a different place where people are more comfortable than we were like maybe February or March of this year, you're probably not seeing that much concessions that you once did.
But the bottom line is, you think the builders are going to do good going forward, right?
Yeah,
just going to keep moving product more and more as the rates come down.
Once again, there's no inventory out there.
Yeah.
I'm having clients who are like, oh, I'll look in Culver City, to like I'll look in Encino, to like Valencia's not that bad. Like they keep pushing, they keep pushing out because they want the house. They're willing to travel.
It's like me. I was looking around here, and next thing you know, I'm ending up in Ladera Heights, or what's the other area? 90043 with
View Park.
View Park. I'm moving. I'm like,
you just
that's
keep
all
going.
I can afford, man.
That's right. Absolutely.
On that note, View Park's okay, right?
I grew up in View Park. View Park's fantastic. Yeah.
You were telling me how different it is now.
Oh, it's changed a lot. Yeah.
So, all right, let's get down a little bit more like to our audience stuff. Okay. So I get these are the questions I get all the time, right? Is this the right time to buy? So how do you answer that question? Like my, academic answer is real estate's local, your situation's there. There's no right answer.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you get that a lot. So how do you generalize that?
So I first of all, you got to run the numbers. Is it comfortable for you? Can you afford the mortgage? Are you stretching yourself? Are you okay with this?
Gotcha.
Right?
So affordability.
Affordability is definitely number one. And this is across the board. Good market, bad market, doesn't matter. And I would say the other thing would be, what is your time horizon? Like if you're buying a 1-bedroom condo and it's you and your fiance and you're buying a place in downtown LA, do you want kids? Like how quickly do you want to do that? Because you're going to outgrow this place quickly, and I can't tell you what's going to happen in 3 to 4 years. And then
is this a permanent thing or is this like a temporary thing?
Yeah, because you don't want to get into something where like, this is good for now. Like I'm buying a 2-bedroom house, but I really need 3. Then don't do it, because I don't want you to be stuck in that or have to get out of it and be upside down on it, because we don't know where we are.
Gotcha.
So I really think like it like you said, it's hard to kind of give like a blanket answer that it's right to your situation. But number one is, do the numbers pencil out? Because historically over like a 7-10 year period, you're probably going to do really well.
Yeah, but are you going to stay there 7 to 10 years?
And most people don't.
Yeah.
But you also, I mean, in this place here, you want to make sure that like, I tell my clients like, hey, can you see yourself here happily and comfortably for the next 5 to 7 years? If you can, I'd say it's a good thing. If you think like, hey man, there's a good chance like 2 to 3 years, I'm gonna have to sell this thing, you're taking a risk. And that's really on you, and you guys decide what you want to do with that. Maybe you can turn that into a rental in your portfolio and build from there.
Well, some people I have that luxury. Like if I don't like this, and sell one of the other ones and go move out here and rent this one. But I mean, some people first time, it's a different story.
Absolutely.
Right. So what the basic thing that you tell them is like, first of all, you got to make sure you can afford it, and then look to the future whether this decision now is going to be a long term or a short term, and then decide kind of like how it's going to impact.
Yeah,
you.
don't buy a 1-bedroom loft in downtown LA and tell me you want to have 3 kids in the next 5 years. It's not going to end well for you. Probably it is a chance it won't end well for you.
Another thing I get asked all the time is everyone's like, "Oh, are the homes too expensive? Homes are overpriced, and it's going to crash. It's going to come down. It's going to come down." I always say no supply. It's never going to come down, and it's
I'm with you. You need more inventory, and the thing about this is that you and I have been hearing that the market's going to crash for several years now.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it hasn't. And there's been opportunities for it. Mortgage rates go through the roof, all this, and it just keeps chugging.
You know, I got a good story about that for people who think they're buying at the wrong time.
Yeah.
My place in Redondo that I bought, I bought it in end of 06. Okay. It lost 30% by the time 08 hit.
Yeah.
In 1.5 years. I was like, there goes my equity, man. Gone.
Yeah.
Gone. But fast forward, but again, I had the staying power. Fast forward now, it's like it's 7 figures in equity now for me.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, and all I do is like, it's rented, someone pays for my mortgage,
Itself.
and I just left it. And if you asked me back in 09, I'm like, this, I screwed up big time.
Yeah.
My neighbor bought for like 300 grand less than me,
Yeah.
I was like, shit, but then now I realize like over time, so I think the way I would answer is is it too expensive now? I think it goes back to your first answer, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're long horizon, it's always going to be okay. It's always going to move. You have these little blips, but if you average it out, it's always going to appreciate.
Yeah. I met this guy when I was selling a house in Santa Monica, north of Montana, which is like
that's
prime
my dream
area, right?
Was it 5 million minimum now?
It was, but yeah,
it's even more now.
It's getting up there, but
2 years ago you could get a place there for like 2.
Yeah. Well,
more.
I sold dirt there like 6-7 years ago for like 2.5, 2.7, just the dirt.
I love that place.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. So I met this guy there, and he was older guy, and he's like got his dog, and he's hanging out on the street. And he's like, hey, you want to say something funny? I'm like, sure. He's like, you know what I paid for my house back in 1972? And I'm like, sure. Like just 100, 200, 300. So I paid $70,000. And we said when I bought it, my mother told me I was an idiot. And she said you should. This is a terrible deal.
His entire retirement's in that house.
He said I put my kids through college, I put my grandkids through college, and I'm still living here to this day, and I have no intention of ever leaving. Yeah. And he's right. I mean that once again, the dirt then, back when I was talking to him, was like and his house doesn't look like dirt. It looks like it's a nice home. He's probably 5, 6, 7. And the guy was he worked on airplanes. He was a mechanic.
Oh, wow.
So imagine this.
North of Montana.
He's living next to producers and heads of companies and this guy is a retired mechanic.
You see that a lot in like the beach cities too. A lot.
Yeah.
Like there's this $4 million brand new construction, and then next door there's a guy there. There's a family there that's second generation.
That's right.
Like parents paid like 200 grand for the house in the late 80s or early 80s or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's always like that in the good areas.
Yeah.
People just won't leave.
So time horizon once again, right?
Yeah.
He held on to it, even if the market had corrected in 09. The guy was light years ahead of everybody in equity. Yeah.
I always get asked to like, should we wait for prices to come? No, I hear this. Should we wait for prices?
No.
My advice to them is never.
Never.
Just your situation. If you can carry the load, you can afford it.
You're not going to time it right.
Never time it right.
There's
never
no,
time it.
Warren Buffett's not timing it right.
Yeah.
No one's timing it right. Once again, can you afford the house? Does it fit your needs? Buy it. In the long run, you're going to be happy. What's going to happen is if you try to time it and you try to say like, okay, the market's going down now, right? You're going to lose out. It's going to cost you more money.
Everything that I bought, like even you with this place, remember?
Oh yeah.
I wasn't thinking about this place.
Yeah.
You just brought me here. I was like, dude, like, let's do it, man. Like, all my whole idea of letting me go see here, all that went out the window once I saw it. I looked at the price, I calculated it, and we just did it.
It was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm really good place right now.
All my clients who have been trying to time it for years, all that's happened is the house that they could have bought 4 years ago for $1 million is now 1.5.
Yeah.
That's all, and they're waiting for the drop. And maybe it drops, and maybe it drops down to 1.3. Yeah. They still could have done better.
So
if
pretty
they bought
much
it.
Everyone who tried to wait it out regrets waiting it out.
Yeah, because it's passed them by.
Yeah.
It passed them by. Well, now they got to save more to afford more when they could have bought this and they could have built the equity. and maybe been looking at their uplink, the next one, or buying a secondary investment property.
Right.
Yeah, but you're waiting, you're paying rent, you're not building any equity, and it's not doing you any good.
So the one other thing I wanted to touch on is whenever people hear stuff on the news about the prices are coming down. So what's your take on that? Because it's always like you hear one thing and then you probably are the recipient of like people hear something and they call you the RABT, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
It's regional. It's product specific. Like I can't tell you what's going on in Nebraska.
Right.
I can't tell you what's going on in Idaho. I can tell you what's going on in LA. Single family residents, 2 million and below. Those are doing well. I can tell you the condo market is a little softer than
It's soft.
It's definitely softened up. And then obviously with the mansion tax, what's going on in LA, 5 million and above is just brutal.
You pay an extra tax on that, right?
Yeah, a massive tax, 4.5%.
4.5 on top of your property tax.
It's a one-time kind of like a transfer fee that the seller pays at the time of sale. So it's 4.5%.
Seller pays.
The 4.5. Well, I don't know if it's negotiable, but from what I understand, it's on the seller side. It's 4.5% up until 10 million, and then once you clear 10 million, I think it goes to 5.5%. So it's cratered that market. That market is really taking a beating. So it's really kind of like where you are and what you're looking at. It's so tough to kind of like answer that question. That's why you need realtors. You need somebody to kind of walk it through and know the numbers, know the market, know what's happening.
Right.
Yeah, because it's hard.
I'm glad you brought that up. So you see a lot of ads out there, the online, what do you call it, home light, whatever, all this.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because sometimes, she would ask me, like, hey, I have my real estate license. I'm not in the real estate business. I'm in the lending business, and I'm exposed to I know how these transactions works. I read contracts all day long, right? I can draft my own. And she asked me, why don't you just? But I always say, I use the realtor, I use you because you're an expert, and I can just trust, like, hey, if I'm making this decision, you'll know things that I don't know.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So maybe you can touch a little bit on the difference between someone trying to save on commissions and selling their own place, or not having an agent to represent them on the buy side.
Tough.
It's tough. Right?
It's tough. It's not even just like, okay, so let's go back, right? Back in the day I'm talking like 80s, 90s, like when my mom was selling real estate, you needed us more so to find you the properties. We had the MLS book.
I'm old enough to remember the days where if you didn't have access to the MLS, there was no Zillow. There's nothing. You had to get a realtor to tell you what's out there. Right?
So what's happened now is that everybody has access.
Right.
Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, Realtor.com. So in that aspect, I think people look at us and say like, well, I don't really need you anymore. I can find the house. And you might be right? Maybe there's a percentage of inventory that I know about that you don't know about. That's the off-market stuff, right? That I can bring to you. But as far as like all the data points, you guys see the sales, you see the trends, it's all there. What you're bringing me in for more than anything is to protect you guys from things that you're not going to see, or things like hey, like we went to go see this house and I know that behind you is an apartment building looking right into it. And you're not really paying attention to that, and that's going to affect you. Or I know that you told me that your mother's going to be moving in with you and she's older. Then hey, your bedroom's on the third level or her bedroom's on the first level. Do you want to be separated by that much space? Like things like that you're not going to see. So that's another thing. I'm going to look at the house from a different perspective than you are. The other thing as well is that you guys don't, especially in LA, in California, the amount of disclosures and legal things that are happening that we go through on a day-to-day basis to make sure that you guys aren't doing something that's like going to put you guys up in jeopardy. Right. So that's what you're really bringing me in for. Now, I mean, yes, can I go look at the properties, look at the houses, preview for them, bring them to you? Yeah, but you guys are seeing the same things immediately. You're getting the Zillow notifications as soon as I'm getting them.
Well, I like the way I did it with you.
Yeah.
Right? It's always like, you let me go search, I scour Trulia, Redfin, Zillow, and I just send you links like, dude, what about this, what about this, what about this, what about this, and I let you run it, and you come back and then you tell me, like, okay, this one, here's what you gotta look out for, here's this one, this one, this one. So like, I still think it's valuable.
Absolutely, there's places, there's a place over here in Marina right now that is on land lease. And I get calls on this place all the time.
City Club?
The City Club.
What's going to happen to City Club? I'm sorry, tangent. What's going to happen to that, so the audience understands. Across the street from us, by the marina, is another high-rise.
Yes.
That is ancient, 70s built, 60s
Yes.
built? Or 70s?
Right next to the Ritz-Carlton.
Right next to the Ritz-Carlton. Yeah. It's on a land lease. Whereas our, this building here is the last of its kind here that's fee simple, right? So that's why I bought it, thanks, because it's a gem. It's the only asset like this here. You can't build anymore like
Maybe
this.
explain what a land lease is.
A land lease is you don't own, fee simple versus leasehold. So a fee simple piece of real estate is you own that. You have rights to everything. This is a condo building, a high rise that is also fee simple. So I own my unit. Right?
Yeah.
On a land lease, it's a leasehold. Your title says leasehold. And there's an expiration to the lease. So you only own the whatever's on top of the land. You don't own you technically don't own.
And when that lease comes up, there's a chance.
Yeah. So just the thing about Marina City Club, right? How's that gonna work? Like what if who's the city is leasing it? Or the county? I still don't know that.
I don't know. I mean, so I haven't gone to ask for that because most of the time I kind of talk my clients out of that. Because
I've seen penthouses that 3,000 square foot going for 800 grand.
But there's a reason.
I was like, what the hell? But then it's terrible, that building though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
it looks so bad.
But then just the fact that you don't know what's going to happen. So there was one, and this is a wild one. There's one in I think it's Newport Beach called Monarch Bay Club. You familiar with that?
Yeah, I know Monarch Bay Club.
So
that's leasehold, huh?
It was gated community. Beautiful properties overlooking the ocean, and they were on land lease, and it was the Irvine Company. Irvine Company owns
all
everything,
right?
So my client over there had a property, and at the time it was we were trying to sell for $8 to $10 million, right?
On a leasehold.
On a leasehold,
Jeez.
but
it must be a freaking mansion now.
Crazy house, but the Irvine Company negotiated with all the owners and said, you know what, we'll sell you it. So they did 2 appraisals on the property, and 3 appraisals. They took the 2 highest appraisals, and whatever that was, they averaged that out and said, okay, here's what we want for the land on it, right? Because you already paid for the house. Here's what land for it, and it was like $4 or $5 million. Clients just like done. Because these houses are, these are big houses anyway.
Yeah, well, it changes the title from leasehold to fee simple, so it pops the value.
Changed everything. So what I'm saying is that house sold back then for about $15 million.
Jesus.
It's back on the market now, renovated, completely done at $39 million. So that's what you're looking at is something. So if Marina City Club went through
but they're gonna have to raise that thing.
Yeah, but if you were to if they were to negotiate with all the people and say, hey, here's the price to buy out your unit, and then somebody came in and renovated the building, it's prime property.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, that's a great location.
Yeah.
But the thing is the uncertainty. So maybe somebody goes there and says, "Hey, I'll take the risk." And
why would someone buy a leasehold?
I wouldn't.
Unless you were buying a brand new property and thinking you're gonna move out in 10 years and it's got a 99-year on it, and you're like, okay, fine, that's 100 years.
Or unless I don't know. I'm taking a job in Europe in 5 years. I really don't care.
I don't really care.
I don't know why you would.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is why the prices are once again, that building I get calls on all the time. Hey, let's go take a look at this. And I got to explain to them no, you got your HOA fee, you got your property taxes, and then there's a land lease.
Yeah.
There's a fee on top of that, and then the lease fee is telling you that in 20, 30 years you don't own it.
Will any lender finance that? It's so close to the expiration of the lease.
I
don't think so.
I've never got even.
No one would.
I haven't even got into that. We haven't got to that place.
Yeah.
I have yet to have.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
No, but they sell. People buy them.
You see a 2-story, 3,000 square foot penthouse, all glass, overlooking the marina, the ocean, for 800 grand. You're like, oh yeah, that looks good, man. Until you figure out whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
So last thing, man.
Please
don't take too much of your time. About that case. I'm not sure if anyone is aware, but there's a big case against the National Association of Realtors. I think a couple of months ago it got settled out of Missouri.
Weeks ago,
right?
And it's not just National Association of Realtors. It's
Keller Williams was there.
Williams, Berkshire Hathaway, Compass. They're all included.
So who sued them? Who sued
a handful of
buyers,
sellers in the Kansas City, Missouri area for that local MLS.
right? So what happened was there was a class action lawsuit by sellers in, I think, in KC, in Missouri, that got together and sued the National Association of Realtors and several real estate brokerage firms there about the commissions being forced, right? Or seller commissions being forced. So
being required to offer a commission to be a part of your local MLS. So to put your listing in the local MLS system, you were required to offer a commission to the buyer's agent.
So basically what was happening is the dual agent guys were making double whammy or something.
Well, that's part of it, but more than anything, they're saying like, why as a seller am I required to pay a buyer's agent commission? And they're saying, why is that,
required, right?
And why is that? They're calling it. They want to decouple it. They want to separate. Say, hey, I should be able to pay my listing agent, and the buyer should have
to pay the buyer's agent.
Correct.
So basically the suit was saying that why, as a seller, I have to also include commissions for the buyer side.
That's right. Why?
And they lost the case, right?
Yes.
The case was something like a 1.8 billion judgment.
Which could trouble and
they're thinking now it's going to 5 billion. It go to 5 billion, and then it's going to be like wildfires in all the other markets. Right?
Oh no, but it's ready. So you're having there's another case in Chicago that I think is going to start in January or February. New York has one. I think Florida. So every day you wake up,
there's a new one.
There's another lawsuit.
Right.
And it's the same lawsuit, and they're just going all over. And NAR is obviously the biggest player.
Yeah.
But then in every single market you got Douglas Elliman, you got my company side. Everybody's included in this, even though we don't make the rules, we don't require.
Right. So this could change the industry, right?
Yeah, it definitely has the potential to.
Right.
I mean, we're going to kind of see how it all plays out. The thing that's interesting about that is that they're saying that you're required to pay the commission, and typically commissions is 5%, 6%, depending on where you are. And 2.5% gets paid to the listing side, the people who represent the seller, and the other 2.5% or 3%, whatever it is, goes to the buyer side, people who represent the buyer. You're not required to do that. Even in the contract, if you guys look at the contract says you can offer, your listing agent whatever you want to offer them. It's all negotiable.
Right.
And then on the other side, in our local MLS down here, you could offer up to $1.
Yeah. So
there has to be something in there. So the only difference that really has happened here is like, you can offer $0 now as opposed to $1.
Oh, so that's the only difference.
That's the only difference.
You could hear people negotiate it too.
You could have offered
$1. People always negotiate somewhat, right? Like if it's in the couple million range,
It's 2%. I've seen more. I've personally done deals where I got 1.5 recently, and that happens a lot.
But I think in other markets where the homes are 300 grand, 400 grand.
Yeah.
I think that's different. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No one's going to do a deal, a $300,000 home for 1%. That's a lot of work for 1%. And then you got to split it with the buy side.
Well, you had a lot of companies, Purple Bricks. You had all these like iBuyer companies that came in that wanted to do that. Even like Redfin, like one of Redfin's big value adds was like, use a Redfin agent. We'll throw you back, a point on the commission.
That didn't work for Zillow. That didn't work very well for them. Right?
Well, no. The iBuyers took a bath. Yeah,
I heard they all stopped that. They just got killed.
Zillow lost hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in the iBuyer program. And so did Purple Bricks just left the market completely, and they were a big player for like a couple of years.
Right.
We're going to see what's going to happen. I think you're going to have a lot of buyer agents now. We're going to have to maybe learn how to negotiate their commission payment with the seller, and it might even be like a hybrid. It might be something where the seller's offering 1%, so I'd like to get 1.5% from you. But the thing about it, if you really look at it, you brought up a great point. On the higher end market, and those kind of buyers who have more disposable income, they probably adopted a bit more. But if you got a first time home buyer who's in a market $300,000, $400,000, and you're telling them like, hey, I need you to pay an extra 10 grand to have proper representation, that somebody's looking out for your best interest,
right?
As opposed to like, hey, I got to go to the seller agent because he's free, and hope that he's going to look out for me, even though he's already been hired by the seller. He's not looking out for my best interest.
To me, that never works, though,
It
right?
doesn't.
How do you have one agent, dual agents, right? Like one guy is trying to get the highest. You're supposed to get the highest price for your seller and get the lowest price and the best deal for your buyer.
You can't.
If you're the same person,
You can't. So you're going to have a lot of people out there who are going to really like suffer because they're not going to get proper representation because
Yeah.
people are not going to like, they're not going to be able to, if this goes the way it's going, they're not going to be able to afford to have somebody who's really looking out for their best. And like I said, it's going to be more on the lower end. They're going to suffer more than somebody who's buying a $10 million house.
Do you see this in more the more like the lower end markets, like the Midwest?
Yeah.
And right.
And that's going to be brutal because now you're going to do that. And then on top of that, I mean, listen, you're buying your first home. You got closing costs. You got appraisals. You got inspection fees. The last thing you want to do is add another $9,000 to that, right? Or $10,000 to that. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult for that. So, I know NAR's fighting it. They're going to try to figure it out. I've heard that they might allow buyers to roll in their commission into the purchase price, lenders, so you can actually finance it.
Yeah.
So maybe that'd be helpful. Maybe it becomes something where like there's a credit that sellers are paying. So there's a lot
That's
of,
normal. That, by the way, rolling that into the total cost so that you calculate your loan is completely normal in the commercial real estate market.
See?
It's completely normal.
See,
That
so-
cost can be added to the total cost of the transaction, and we calculate it and we finance.
You roll it
part of
right in.
Yeah.
So there's all these different things, all these different moving parts, and it's really early on. You might see massive changes, you might see nothing. I know, like in parts of Europe, Australia, like the numbers, like I think it's like 87% of people in the United States have a buyer's agent, and I think in Australia it's like 7%.
No, it's also different. I know in other countries, because I've looked at
Yeah.
properties in other countries, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Most of the transactions are done by an attorney.
Yeah.
An attorney
Yeah.
does everything. There's no agents or anything. Like there's an agent advised, like in Europe, Western Europe, it's like you go to an agent for the listing, and then the contracts are all drafted by a third party attorney.
That's right.
And the attorney represents like both sides
Yeah.
usually, and
Yeah.
it's a different style of
Totally
process.
different.
It's different. It's
LA,
different.
California is
Yeah.
very different.
Well,
than
also,
how we
this
operate.
is the only country in the world that has 30-year mortgages, that the government is pushing for 30. There's no other country has 30-year
Really?
mortgages.
I didn't know that.
Because this country has the FHA, FHFA, and so on and so forth, which is all government sponsored.
Yeah.
And the government is promoting home ownership. Then you get these, longer term loans, more affordability, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that's why the market's different here. Other countries, it's a whole different ballgame.
Interesting.
But yeah, anyways, thanks, man.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. This is fun.
It's good. It's good finally being able to help like the
Yeah,
audience
absolutely,
understand a
absolutely.
lot better, because I know like academic stuff, but then it gives you like the real deal. So, thanks, man.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you.